Trying TikTok art trends. So for this first one, I wanted to attempt the Apple Core trend, even though I'm like 5 months late. But trends move so fast and I draw so slow. Like I believe this piece took me a little over 6 hours, which is low-key a little bit embarrassing because that's normally how long I take on like a full rendered piece. And this is just the neck up, not even like fully rendered. So it's definitely a little bit embarrassing. But doing this, I definitely learned that I cannot draw side profiles for the life of me. I feel like I especially struggled on the man's side profile. As you can see, he went through many different changes with his cranium and his eyes. This was torture. I probably spent a good 4 hours on him alone. Anywho, I probably should have told y'all who I'm drawing for this. So for this piece, I'm drawing me and my boyfriend just because I don't have any OCs. I don't think that are in relationships. So I just figured why not draw my persona in his. Now this hair was a whole other obstacle on top of everything else because like I said, I'm not used to drawing side profiles. So it was a little bit difficult for me to figure out what the hair should look like from this angle. I almost decided to give myself like straight slash wavy hair, but I decided to try to figure it out with the afro because I like to have that representation with my persona, and that's also just how my hair typically looks. And I feel like in the end, I was able to get something pretty decent. And for his, I feel like I got his hair down pretty fast in comparison. I just drew his hair in this little ponytail style, even though that's not how he typically wear his locks. It's close enough. Now I finally can move on to the apple, and I was kind of dreading but also excited to draw the apple because I never really draw food, but I also knew that this was going to be the thing that brings it all together. And surprisingly, the apple was the quickest thing of this whole drawing. I probably spent max 40 minutes on the apple rendering and everything compared to the two faces that took me the rest of the 6 hours. It was genuinely so satisfying to just sit here and color this apple and forget about the other issues going on in the picture. Finishing up the apple, I finally saw that I made his jawline really long, so I went ahead and made that smaller and brought his eye back down, and I was done. The Roblox face trend, or I believe it's also called. This is another trend I'm kinda late for. I actually believe it was trending around the same time as the Apple Core trend, but I love this trend and I have two OCs that just work so perfectly with this face. There's actually several different variations of this Roblox face trend, this one being the most popular. But for this drawing, I decided to go with this version just because it fits my characters a little bit better. Specifically, my girl on the left, she's a very monotone, apathetic type of character. Like she's extremely passive and expressionless. So it's very rare to see her make any type of facial expression unless like she would have to be feeling something very intense for that to happen. And 9 times out of 10, whatever she's feeling is going to be like annoyance or anger. I haven't yet been able to come up with a name for her, but for my girl on the right, she's Japanese, so of course I wanted to give her a more traditionally Japanese name. So I thought something like Yuki or Yukio would be super cute. Totally didn't steal that from Deadpool. Now for a bit of lore drop about my children here. I don't have much about their backstory, like how they met, their relation. Well, I know I want them to be friends. I originally thought about making them partners dating, but I thought that was weird because my whole inspiration for them was like doppelgangers. I wanted them to look pretty much exactly the same. So I thought having two people that look the same date, that's a little weird. So just friends, or if you can call them that. Even though they look the same, their personalities are quite opposite. Like I said, for my girl on the left, she's very passive, monotone, very expressionless. Yukio, on the other hand, is very chaotic and childlike, like very psychotic essentially. Like if I had to compare her to an already existing character, I would say her and Harley Quinn pretty much act exactly the same. Again, I don't have too much of the story really polished, but my main kind of idea for them is that they're both businesswomen. I'm not exactly sure what they do. I just know they work for a big corporate business. And they're just very average girls. Like, you wouldn't think anything off about them in passing. But in reality, at nighttime, they're serial killers, basically. I'm not exactly sure how they get to this point. I've kind of thought about like maybe they're not treated well at their workplace, which then causes them to break down essentially, or like just lose it, and they attack that person at their workplace, and then they kind of get addicted to it. Like they'll hurt whoever they feel has wronged them, even if in reality it may have just been somebody who accidentally bumped into them a little bit too hard, or somebody who accidentally made them spill their coffee. Their mental has deteriorated to the point where they're not going to see it that way. They're not going to see logic. They're automatically going to take that as that person looking down upon them, which in return, of course, they end up that person. My girl on the left is very strategic and logical when it comes to this. She will stalk their victim. She will do extensive research on the victim. She will even go as far as to befriend the victim's family or even the victim themselves if it proves to be helpful for her goal. Yukio, on the other hand, is very impulsive. She will want to attack somebody on sight the moment she feels like somebody is thinking less of her. Yukio is the type to just leave a ton of evidence at the crime scene, and my other girl is the one who will have to clean up after both of them. In other words, Yukio is just happy to be there, while my other girl is doing all the hard work. But yeah, that's pretty much all I have story-wise. As you could tell, I put a lot more thought into their personalities more so than their story, but I love these two characters so much that I probably will end up adding on to their lore. The last trend I wanted to do was an art collab with a few people from my Discord server. I love integrating y'all into my videos, so I thought a little art collab with a few people would be a super fun way to do that. I decided to go with this collab base as it gave me an opportunity to pick 3 people instead of just 1 out of the 300 people in the server. I was originally going to try and make a whole brand new OC for this, but as I was going, I noticed it kind of started to look like one of my already existing characters, so I just decided to turn it into that. She's another no-name girly with a half-baked story. But like my last, I would really like to expand upon her lore a little bit more, especially since realizing her story is a little bit too similar to my last OC's story. But instead, she's an alien from Jupiter who has always been very fascinated in Earth ever since she was a little alien. So one day, as she got older, she decided to venture off to Earth by herself, which leads to her living in trash cans and alleyways as she learns what the human form looks like. After many months of just observing human beings living their day-to-day life, she finally feels like she has gathered enough information to form her own version of the human body. She soon morphs herself into a human-like figure to then go off and try to blend in with the rest of civilization. She soon tries to seek a job as she sees that's what everybody else is doing, but quickly finds out that nobody will hire her as she has no form of identification, no social security number, no birth certificate, nothing. As a last attempt, she hits up this small local diner that seems to be hiring. And to her relief, they hire her right there on the spot without asking for any form of identification. She quickly gets to work trying to become the best worker she possibly can. And all goes well for a while. She even begins to form some close connections with some of her coworkers. Until a few of her other coworkers start to notice there's some things off about her. Like the way her skin has an unnaturally gray undertone to it, or the way she'll sometimes have 7 fingers on one hand, but other days it's back to 5. One coworker eventually attempts to confront her about it as they're doing a closing shift together. She's quickly horrified by the coworker's confrontation as she realizes that means they're close to figuring out that she's not really human. Panicked, she resorts to the only thing she knows will make this whole thing go away. And I'm sure y'all can put two and two together and figure out what she does to the coworker. What can I say? I am a sucker for the horror genre. Anywho, back to the drawing. I was actually supposed to draw this on a portrait canvas, hence why I didn't draw the arms because it was supposed to be cut out. But I somehow didn't notice until the last minute that I wasn't drawing on a portrait canvas. So I thought I could maybe take the drawing and put it on the right size canvas afterwards. But when I tried that, it didn't look right. So we're just gonna have to deal with her being armless. Here's the final collab, and a big thank you to the people who participated.